Welcome to the Nehemiah Entrepreneurship Community Podcast. I'm your host, Patrice Tsague. I'm here with Watchen Bruce. So, Watchen is no stranger to the Nehemiah Project. She's a certified trainer and coach. She leads our GKIN Global Investors Kingdoms Network. She also a biblical entrepreneur, but she's here particularly because she's also her day job, the president CEO of a how do you say it? Tell me how you say it.
We are a mission-based lender, community development financial institution, and we are certified by U.S. Department of Treasury.
Oh wow! So it's called Baltimore Community
Lending,
Lending.
Baltimore Community
Baltimore
Lending.
Community Lending, and they are a certified community-based lender, a mission-based institution. Let me read a bit about Watching, so you can know why our discussion today is so important, and Watching particularly in the current environment with the bank crisis, right?
Mhm.
I just did a devotional. I'm not a devotional. I just did a blog yesterday titled "Bank Crisis." Should you be concerned? By the way, if you do not get our blog, visit our website at nehemiahecommunity.com, nehemiahecommunity.com, and there you'll able to go to our blog, and you can even register or sign up so that you can be constantly getting our blog. And so in that particular blog, I dealt with what happened with this situation. I also dealt with how does it impact you, and I dealt with what your business, how will it impact your business. But so let me deal with Watching right now. So Watching of over 35 years and more, she's been in banking, development finance, small business lending, economic development, international development, affordable housing, and she has tremendous leadership experience. She has extensive development finance experience, both nationally and internationally. Prior to joining BCL, she was the CEO of African New Frontier Incorporated, an entrepreneurship and financial inclusion company. She also served as chief of party country director of the USAID funding project, Investing for Business Expansion, IBEX project, access to finance and business development project in Liberia for 5 years. She also served as deputy chief of the party for another USAID funding project in Liberia agri business development activities for 3 years. And the list goes on and on. I mean, she's also very involved in her local church. She's a member of the African American Alliance, CDFI CEO. She's a board member of the Maryland Community Development Network, a board member of Morning Star Baptist Church, Five Star Community Development Corporations, a member of Five Star. And Watching, you also recently were asked to be on the board. You're also on the advisory board of, could you tell us about that?
Yes, I'm also on the advisory board of the community, Consumer Finance Advisory Board. It's called, it's part of the U.S. Department, the Federal Reserve Bank. It's a division which is managing the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. So I'm one of the advisory board members.
Wow. So first of all, Watching, congratulations on all your accomplishments.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're excited to have you a part of our community. Thank you for your devotion and commitment to kingdom business and kingdom impact.
Thank you.
So, Watching, let's start where it all began. Well, before we do, actually, the current bank crisis. As a banker, as a lender, even though your bank is not a depository bank, it's pretty much a mission-based lending institution.
Mhm.
How do you feel about this particular crisis? Is it isolated to a few small banks? Is it going to spread? What is your take as a banker?
Well, my take is right now it's not a direct impact on our CDFI or Community Development Financial Institution because we are not a commercial bank.
Mhm.
We are a mission-based lender, and we are certified to provide loans to underserved communities and we do not we are a non-depository institution. So in terms of what's happening in the current environment, it does not really affect us because we do not deal with cash. It's strictly lending and business development services to our small businesses. But in essence, we are closely watching what's happening because it affects our customers who have deposits in financial institutions. A lot of the banks are our partners. They refer businesses to us that they cannot finance because either they are so small or they do not meet the criteria. Because we are a non-traditional lender. We lend to people with our collateral and we lend to people with very limited credit. So our product is designed to meet people where they are. So we work with them to build their capacity, and we work with startups and growth businesses. So that distinguish us from commercial banks. And for us, our institution is ready relationship based institution. We work one on one with our clients to build a relationship and get to know them. So it's very much focused on trust and relationship building. So that's a different model than a commercial bank.
Question. Um, for our audience listening and watching, they're saying, will this spread though throughout the banking institution around the world? Should there be concern about banks in general? What do you say?
Well, I don't think so, because this is different than what happened 2008 with the housing crisis. The housing crisis was more of on the lending side, loans. This is very isolated because this is on the deposit side, and deposits are insured by FDIC up to 250,000. And most small businesses may not have a lot more, but in essence, I don't think it's going to spread because this is, I believe, based on what I've heard and read, it is an isolated situation because this bank had a very, the portfolio was very concentrated in one industry. And in every business, you have to diversify because when you don't diversify, you do not have a way to mitigate your risk. Because
Yeah.
we do the same, we do not do more than 25% in lending to any one industry. So even the banks, on the deposit side, you have to already have diverse pools on both the loan side. So most commercial banks do that because they are highly regulated. But the small community banks have different regulators. So it is something that needs to be watched and pay attention to, not to put all your eggs in one basket. I guess that's the right word.
Watching, I can almost call this podcast from banker to biblical entrepreneur. Before
Yes.
we go back to Liberia, let's let's go back to Liberia. Tell us about Watching, how she grew up before the war, what shaped who you are.
Yeah.
Give us a bit about your background and how you grew up.
Yes. First, thanks for giving me the opportunity to share. I'm originated from Liberia, as you said, West Africa. And I grew up in Liberia as a kid. My parents were farmers. I grew up on a farm, and my parents were also missionaries at a Presbyterian church. They were very mission and socially minded people. I grew up in an environment where we had to always help others, provide resources for the community. My parents created a lot of business opportunities because he was an entrepreneur and he had what we call agribusiness. He had agriculture, but he had processing and factories that process the crops. So he hired a lot of people. And that's why I think that was part of my DNA, becoming more for agribusiness or entrepreneur, but focusing on social impact businesses. I saw that in my parents, they always give back to the community and they always help people who needed help. And I grew up in faith-based academic environment, a boarding school that was a Christian school. So we had character education and as well as academics. And that fast forward, I graduated from my high school, which was a Christian-based high school, and major in accounting as part of my high school community college. We had both a high school academic and a community college. And I came over to the United States in 1980. My parents sent me over to continue my education, get a college degree, and that's when I came over here. But all of my roots have always been wanting to help people financially. So my first opportunity in the States, I came over to University of Houston to complete my bachelor's in accounting. So I went to Houston to school, and my first job at while I was in college was in the bank in 1980, and that's been for
Wow.
40 something years now.
So
So
is that kind of where you started getting excited about banking?
yes, I was recruited to work in a loan department in the banking 1980, and they sent me through credit training to become a loan officer. And that was 1980. But then back in Texas and down south, they had a major crisis in the real estate market crash in Oklahoma and Texas in 1980. But I ended up doing a lot of workouts and restructuring, and I worked in that bank until 1986, and that's when I was recruited to Massachusetts to work for banking, various banks in Boston, Massachusetts, and that's when my banking career really developed into corporate finance. But I felt my niche was in community development because that was my calling and my passion. I felt like I should help people, so I went to work for Fleet Bank in Boston, and I started working in the community development division within the bank. And I saw the difference we made in the community economic development, opening shopping centers and various businesses and affordable housing in Boston. And that's when I knew this was my calling to really focus on economic community development. And and all of my the rest of my banking career has been in community economic development or small business lending in underserved community. And
Wow.
that's who I am. It is
Wa-
really being a servant leader.
Wow. We're talking to Watchen Bruce, she's the CEO and president of a mission-based lending organization in Baltimore called
Yeah.
Baltimore Community Lending. Watchen, you guys have how much under management as a bank?
Well, right now, under management is about 35 million
35 million. And you focus on
loans.
small entrepreneurs, small businesses in the Baltimore area in that particular
Yes,
sector.
that's correct.
When you first took it over, you had how much when you first took over the bank?
It was 20 million. That's
20
3 years
million.
ago.
3 years ago. And you've grown it to where it
To
is now,
35 today.
35. So all of this, you ended up back in Liberia. What took you, by the way, if you want to know more about the watching and and her organization, you can visit them. They have an incredible website called bclending.org, bcdlending.org. Also, Watching is a certified trainer and coach in the my project. If you want to know more about how to bring her on board as your coach or trainer, go to nehemiahecommunity.com,
Mhm.
nehemiahecommunity.com. They can learn about all that we do. Um, Watching, so what then led you back to Liberia?
Yes, as I said, I came over after my first college degree from. Actually, I went to college. The first one as University of Abidjan. I studied French at the University of Abidjan, and from 77 to 80. And I came over to the States. Was in banking all those years, and then my last banking job in Maryland was with a bank called PNC Bank. I was a business banker until 2012. I was recruited by the U.S. government agency, which is United States uh, um, It's USAID, United States Agency for International Development. I was recruited as a Liberian in the diaspora with banking experience to go back and manage a project, which was economic development. The project was ready access to finance called ABEX, which is investing for business expansion. The goal was to expand businesses that needed growth capital to grow their businesses and create jobs within Liberia, because this was just after the war. I didn't mention I came here to the States 1980, not for school, but I couldn't go back because there was a civil war in my country in Liberia, and my family was displaced. My father was killed along with other relatives. So the whole country was destroyed. So that's why I couldn't go back. But then I stayed here, became a citizen, and continued working to help people in Liberia. So fast forward, I was recruited to go back as an adult now to manage this project, which was amazing because I was able to train entrepreneurs on how to access capital from commercial banks. But most importantly, I was able to train the bankers on cash flow lending, on how to structure the deal to lend based on cash flow. A lot of the businesses in Africa do what we call asset-based lending. You have to have collateral. But when you do not own a home or any property, you really don't have much, or you must have cash in the bank. A lot of poor or small micro businesses do not have capital. So bottom line, it was difficult for people to access capital to grow their businesses. So what the USAID wanted me to do is train the bankers on how to do cash flow lending. And most importantly, we guaranteed the bank loans. So we had a loan guarantee program similar to SBA here. And we work in two sectors, renewable energy and agriculture or agribusiness. So those businesses were able to help over almost 2,000 businesses access credit, as well as we provided business development services, pre-funding and post-funding. And the project was very successful. But then that was why I went back to use my banking expertise to help the people from my home country, Liberia.
You had great hopes and aspiration, but
Yeah.
it was short-lived.
Yes.
So, what brought you back to United States?
Yes, great. What brought me back 2019, we were redeployed back to the United States. The project was not over, but it was redesigned to budget realignment. It was the last administration had different focus on a lot of projects. So a lot of the projects budgets were cut, and but I had been there 5 years, and the project was actually supposed to be 7 years, but I was called back to because of budget realignment. So out of the expats, I went as an expat. So out of the expat on the project and other projects, not just mine, we were redeployed back to the States, and we were disappointed because there were great needs for the services in Liberia. There were a lot more businesses that needed our assistance, and but we were called back because the budget was cut. So we came back disappointed and hoping that it will be recapitalized or refunded or allocation from the federal government to go back. But unfortunately, the State Department did not refund the project. So they told me to wait until 2020. So hopefully they were going to refund it in FY 2020 to send me back. Unfortunately, it was not. And then what happened 2020? Do you remember?
Yeah, COVID.
COVID happened.
COVID changed everything. In the
COVID happened.
meanwhile, you re-engaged with Nehemiah with biblical entrepreneurship. What led
Yeah.
you to reconnect with Nehemiah and biblical entrepreneurship?
Right. So when I came back 2019, as I said, I was disappointed because I felt like that's what I needed. I needed to be in Liberia at that time. So when I came back, I decided, well, while waiting for USAID, I needed to do something else. And I really wanted to continue doing business development and coaching and training of businesses in terms of kingdom businesses. And I decided to research Limaya Project. And I Googled them. And because I knew about Limaya Project, because I used to live in Washington, D.C. area, Silver Spring, and I knew your organization because this is where you started at the church where we all attended in Silver Spring back those early days. And luckily, when I researched kingdom businesses or just Limaya Project, I didn't know where you all had relocated. And I found out that you had moved to Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington area. And that's how we reconnected. And I was excited. So I decided to take your program, which was the executive BE Executive Biblical Entrepreneur Executive Program 2019 to get me prepared and certified as a coach and trainer, doing something similar in terms of business development, but doing it more of a biblical base.
And your whole vision was to take it back to Liberia,
That's
right?
correct. Yes.
In
And
the meanwhile, though, something happened. You got
yes.
another opportunity. Tell us about that.
Yes, definitely. In the meantime, I got an opportunity because I was called by a recruiter looking for someone of my expertise, someone who has banking, who has had banking experience, working in the nonprofit sector, as well as who have business development experience. And the CEO was retiring, and they contacted me, and I was not really interested because I wanted to go back to Africa to continue my work with USAID and to carry Limaya project back there. But when I was called to do this work, I hesitantly accepted it, and I told them I just needed to be there 1 year as an interim CEO until they could find someone. And I said, "Oh, please, we really need you." And I didn't want to, but then 2020 came, and my husband encouraged me. He said, "Maybe God has a way of doing things. Maybe He wants us to be here. So take the opportunity and see what happens." And we pray about it, and I accepted the position. And 2020 January, I took over as the president and CEO of Baltimore Community Lending. But my goal was not to stay there long. I just wanted to do 1 year interim and then leave. But then COVID went on for 3 years.
Look at that. Again, I'm talking to Watchen Bruce. She's the director of a mission-based lending organization in Baltimore called Baltimore Community
Community lending.
Lending. She's also the leader for our Global Investors Network, helping us with entrepreneurs who need to raise capital through the DMI project. She's a certified trainer and coach. So, Watchen, you took it over. When you took over the bank, you were at, you said 20,
It
you
was
at that point, 19,
19.19 million.
you're
19.
not taking it at $35 million.
Yes.
They had they had no major building, right?
None at all were
None at
leasing.
all. You were leasing. You
Mm.
set a vision to acquire a building, and today you just
Yes.
done a ribbon cutting for your own building. Am I right?
Exactly. That's well, we just purchased the building. We're
You
doing
just
a build
purchased.
out right now. But yes,
Wow. You've
so
just purchased
when
a
I took
building.
it
Go ahead.
overnight, 2020, the first thing is I look at all the financials, and I saw we're paying a whole lot of money to lease. Annual lease for over $100,000. I said, we paying all this money to lease. Why can't we own our own building? People say, "Oh, well, we don't have money and we can't do it. We are just a small nonprofit and we cannot afford." I said, "Well, this would be my vision. It is." I put this on my vision board and say, "We are going to make this happy by God's grace." And it was part of our strategic plan, and the goal was for us to move in a new facility that we own and operated. But most importantly, we decided to create a business development center to do
Mhm.
more technical assistance and wraparound business services, just like Limaya, to offer more services to our businesses. We did not know how we're going to do it, but we pray about it. Well, I did, because I'm a woman of faith, and I knew it was going to happen. So I just put it out there and drew hire an architect to do a rendering, and we did a fundraiser on December 2021 with the rendering, with the vision. And the vision was to purchase a building, 20,000 square feet, full story, with a rooftop with solar panels. That was the vision. The first floor were going to be our business center and resource center, second floor co-working spaces, and the top two floor would be our offices. That's exactly what we purchased. We purchased a 23,000 square feet, and we purchased it from a company that trusted us, because they didn't think we had the capacity. And guess what? The building was in the millions. We paid cash for the building.
Wow.
It was
Look at
not
that.
even finance, cash.
Look at that.
We
That's
paid
God.
cash, and it was all. Its owner had to be God, and I said it because God is wonderful if you present your plans to Him. The vision was what was posted, and people believe in our vision. And they said, you know what? We hire a broker who took us to so many buildings. But this particular building came to us, came to the broker like less than 2 weeks, when we were hoping that we will find a building, and we made an offer, and a hospital was interested in purchasing the building from us, because it's ready. It was occupied. So there's no rehab. Everything is ready just to move in. So
Wow.
we were able to be successful in getting the offer accepted, and we paid cash for it. So we
Look at
closed
that.
on March 10th. So the lesson learned for this is, if you have a vision, put it on your vision board, pray to God about it, and He will make it real. He will make it happen.
Amen.
And that
Amen.
happened. Yeah.
Let's talk about impact. Talk to us a bit about the impact that the Baltimore Community Lending Organization had in that local area.
Yes, the impact is massive, because we are one of the very few community development financial institutions, CDFI for short, that provides loans to people who ordinarily will not have access to capital to start or grow their businesses. Most banks or other lenders do not lend to people without collateral. That's first thing. The second, you have to have excellent credit. In the banks, they ask for almost 680 and above. Third, you have to have track record for at least 3 years and above. We do loans to businesses that do not have the kind of track record. They do not have perfect credit, or we even work with returning citizens, meaning people who've returned from prison. We work with them to get them restarted. We work with people who do not have collateral to pledge. But what we do, we work with them to mitigate our risk. We require them to go through our education, which is we provide one-on-one coaching, mentoring, and we do pre and post coaching when they receive the capital. We follow them through, and we build relationships with them. Because of that, we've been operating for many years, 30 years now, the organization, and there's no default. It's
Wow.
because, but the impact is seeing businesses open and growing to go to the banks. So the impact is helping people become bankable, because they leave it from us. For us, that's success, when they can leave from us and
Amen.
go to a bank and get a financing without needing our assistance. And that's what's happening now.
Do you have a
So,
sense of how many entrepreneurs you guys help a year or have served so far, and how much capital?
well, the organization has two loan funds. It started to be as a real estate or affordable housing lenders for 30 years. And then we started the small business loan fund 5 years ago. And with 5 years, we have closed the small business side over 200 loans,
Wow.
and in different sectors, and there has not
Awesome.
been any default. And the portfolio in 5 years is 8.5 million in
Oh,
loans.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And on the
And those
real
of you
estate
guys,
side,
yeah.
it's I mean, over 200, almost $3 million, 3 million uh, actually the loans on the real estate, but 3,000 loans, but the portfolio is over 280 million. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Despite all that, despite even being on the advisory board for the consumers, you've chosen to continue to maintain your certification, work with the Maya project, and help biblical entrepreneurs. Why? Why is this? You're already a busy woman. Why
Yeah.
have you work with the Orlando Center as a coach and trainer?
Mhm.
Why have you continued to maintain work with the Maya project and with GKIN, with
Right.
Orlando Center and so forth, despite how
Well, the
busy you
main
are?
reason for me is the project I'm managing now for my day job. It's limited to just Baltimore because we cannot expand. We are certified by geographic location. They have other CDFIs in other markets, but my CDFI is really in the Baltimore region, and we cannot go beyond that. And the reason I want to help others is to help people outside of the Baltimore market. So I'm providing business services, and through GKIN, we can provide loans. So, in essence, the services are needed nationally and globally. So, what I'm doing here is not limited to Baltimore. So, I'm part of Nehemiah and GKIN because I can continue my work or my passion with serving people globally, not limited to
Mm.
just Baltimore, because we cannot go beyond our current market. And not only that, with Nehemiah, it's based on biblical principles. And that's something that I enjoy doing. And I think it's a calling because it is a ministry for me.
That is incredible. Wow. Well, you've heard it, tremendous experience in banking, passionate for the community. Africa has taken this local bank to where it is right now and is a certified training coach with us. So if you're looking for a certified training coach with banking experience, I mean, Watchen Bruce is the one. She's with the Orlando Center. Again, if you want to know more about the community development bank that Watchen leads, you want to visit them at bclending.org, bclending.org. They serve the Baltimore area, and
Mhm.
we all know how much help that area needs. If you want to connect with Watchen as a trainer, coach for the Nehemiah Project, or about GKIN in terms of raising capital, you can visit us at nehemiahecommunity.com, nehemiahecommunity.com. There you can learn about those programs. Washington, don't leave yet because I have a last question for you. But before, though, I do want to talk to our audience. Listen, if you enjoyed this podcast, do me a favor. I want you to share it. I want you to share with your social media platform, share it with your friends, share it with those who you know that maybe like watching, maybe Africans in America, but and are looking and are not walking out their purpose, or maybe Africans in Africa and are not walking out their purpose, or maybe just any individual Christian who are wondering, how do I integrate my faith with my work? How do I discover my calling? Or there may be a woman who have not fully realized their full potential. I want you to go ahead and connect with to share this with them so they can hear the story of a woman who born and raised in Liberia, of well-to-do parents, learned entrepreneurship from them, came to America, developed, got trained and learned as a banker, went back to Liberia, but war broke out, right? Despite of war, losing her family, losing her father, your father and your mother, just your dad.
Just my
Wow.
dad
And
and my brothers and other
oh
relatives. But
my
my mother
gosh.
came over and
Amen.
passed out of just being frustrated. She died here.
I am so
Yeah.
sorry. So, despite that, she kept pressing on, pressing on. Now you even have reopened a school, right? In your
Yes.
father's name.
Yep, yep.
That's
Yes, we
incredible.
do have a school we support, and we support other young people. Over 10 students on a scholarship, the C.B. Harris, Charles B. Harris Foundation, my father's name, as
Wow.
a
You
legacy
continue.
to him. Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
So we
So
are
share
doing a
this.
lot back there. We are supporting a church also
Yeah,
in Liberia, which is now part of the Nehemiah Sustainable Church Initiative. That was our church in Liberia. So we are doing the biblical entrepreneurial training for the youth right now. And we have
that's
25
incredible.
students.
That's
Um,
incredible. And I know a lot of that you and your husband kind of supported. Listen, connect with Watch. If you have a heart for Liberia, for Africa,
Yes.
connect with Watching and join her so that you can make a difference there. But
Thank you.
Watching, and by the way, also, if you visit our website, if you want to know about the email project, about our training program, biblical entrepreneurship, Pastor can continue on the Bravo, Identity and Destiny, or our coaching program, the executive coaching, group coaching, or access to financing, or about how to become a member of the community.
Mm,
Remember, membership does have its benefits, so you
mm.
can be a part and join a community that has members from Asia, Africa, Europe, Latin America, and of course North America. But watching, so somebody's watching right now, and they are, if you think about your journey has been filled with disappointments, right? So the Liberia War was a major disappointment. Your father passing as a result, a major disappointment. This project funding ending, a major disappointment. COVID-19. So you've
Mm.
had a series of, but in the midst of it all, you find a way. We know we have a program in my project called Identity and Destiny. You
Mhm.
find a way to align it with your identity and your destiny. You've not allowed to discourage you. So, what advice would you give our listeners and viewers who are saying, watching, how did you keep going? How
Yeah.
did you keep pressing? What advice would you give us as we consider the challenges before us and having to ourselves press on to walk out our identity and destiny?
Yes, thank you. That's an important question. I think it's all based on the grace of God, depending on his promises that he will protect us, to guide us. We will go through wilderness, we will go through trials and tribulations, but God is God. God sometimes take us through all of this to make us stronger. So for me personally, it's just depending on the promises of God because I've always depended on Him. The promises of God and the grace of God. He always makes a way. He heals, He comforts, and He gives you direction. So my strength comes from God because I know He's able. Through it all, it made me a stronger person. And for me, all what happened to my family, it was the healing. By going back, it's healing for me to be
Mhm.
able to give back to Liberia, to educate. That's why I was disappointed, not because I just wanted to be in Liberia. I thought it was a way to educate the people on financial literacy. Because the reason my father was killed was because he was a business owner. They went to rob him and they bombed the house, and 20 or more people died who went to our house for refuge. So it was utter ignorance and just lack of knowledge. So that's why we went back to help. So for me, it's going back to help the people so history will not repeat itself. But I'm depending on God to help me to be able to generate revenues here in the States to go back and invest in the young people, educate them so they won't have to create another war because of lack of opportunities. People are desperate. So they would do anything to survive. And that's what it did. Out of their desperation, they thought my father and my brothers had cash in the house, and they didn't. They bombed the house and killed everybody in there. And that was something that really killed us and hurt us, but we have to give back and pray to God to help the people of that country. So we want to help people in Africa, but I specifically focus on Liberia because that's where I'm from. But I'm open to helping people through GKIN. And GKIN is the Global Kingdom Investment Fund. We have this fund at Lima, as you know, but we can't do it, give it to people free. You have to take our courses, the Biblical Entrepreneur course, and you have to be a member of our community because memberships have its privileges. You have to be part of the community to access the funding or the capital. So that's what keeps me going. And so thank you.
Wow. Watson, thank you so much for your service to
Thank you.
our nation and to Africa.
Okay,
Like
thank you.
Nehemiah, you've not forsaken your Jerusalem. And we
No.
thank you so much for it.
Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
with that, guys, let me pray for you as we release watching. May the Lord bless you.
Amen.
May the Lord enable you to steward those talents that are under your care,
Amen.
and to steward them in such a way that one day you will hear those wonderful words, well done,
Amen. Amen.
good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things. Guess what? He'll now
Yeah.
make you rule over much. God bless you. Have a great day
Amen.
and a wonderful week. Thank you again, watching.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye bye.